China has become the European Union's top trading partner for the first time. That is according to the latest figures released by the EU. With figures rising in both EU exports and imports, some say China is now playing an even bigger role in how European economies perform. At the same time, as the two sides put the finishing touches on their major investment agreement, restrictions on European companies doing business in China are expected to be further loosened. What accounts for China's new trading partner status? What are the prospects for closer China-EU economic cooperation? And what role might the U.S. play in future China-EU relations? Joining me for the discussion in Beijing is Adam Dunnett, Secretary General of the European Union Chamber of Commerce in China. And also in Beijing, Professor Baocheng from the University of International Business and Economics. Professor Liu, let me go to you first. Trade between China and the EU was $709 billion last year. EU exports to China grew by 2% and imports rose by 5%. And that happened against the backdrop of a COVID-19 pandemic. How did this happen?
On the fundamental side, there is a lot more complementarity between the manufacturer structure and service structure between China and the EU. And also the fact that China managed to bring the pandemic under very rapid and stringent control helped China to beef up its capability for manufacture and for exports. And in the meantime, we have a common grudge against the United States during the Trump administration because Trump did not only launch trade war with China, but also with the EU, and still the tariff against the EU in terms of the steel, aluminum, and the wine, etc., are still there unremoved. So therefore, that pushes China and the EU work together to achieve such a picture. Of course, the pandemic is the one that, because the European industries are really in a standstill, and in terms of the medical equipment and the home appliances, and China is there to fill the gap of the need for EU.
Right. If you look at another set of data, EU exports to the U.S. dropped by 8%. The imports, from the U.S. fell by 13%. Mr. Dunnett, what do you make of the fact that China is becoming the EU's top trading partner?
That's something for us to celebrate. A new high for EU-China trade relations. That's something to note for sure. On the figures that you reported on the EU and the U.S., those figures are actually very much on par with global trade for last year. I think the professor just mentioned that China, because of its management of COVID-19, was able to fill a global gap there, and it did so. The EU and China both benefited from that, thus becoming each other's largest trading partners. But in the case of the rest of the world saw on average a 10% decrease, and that matches what happened between the EU and the US.
And then, do you see this as a long-term trend or just a temporary spike between China and the EU in terms of trade?
Well, I think it's very possible that they do remain each other's largest trading partners for the foreseeable future. If not number one, then certainly number two, as has been the case for the last decade already.
And then, Professor Liu, I want to go back to you. China's GDP expanded 2.3% to be exact last year, making it the only major economy in the world to register positive growth. And China also has mapped out its 14th five-year plan. We'll hear possibly more details from the two sessions coming up. How does all this impact the relationship between China and the EU?
Well, China now is the fast-growing economy, and also China has committed to further open its door for the. So therefore, it's not only the existing trade, but also the investment-driven trade will be on the rise. And right now, between the Atlantic, there can be a lot more uncertainties despite of the new administration in the United States, because right now, instead of touching upon the real collaboration like free trade agreement across the Atlantic. They talk about the rhetorics of values of democracy, etc.
Yeah,
So
having
that's
G7
not really,
summit.
that's not really the right type of approach to my perspective, given that people do not live in a vacuum. They need the real quality of life, and they need the goods and services that are being catered. And that way really share a lot more with the EU. And in the meantime, China's Belt and Road program is also benefiting the China-EU relationship, given the Eurasia connectivity. And you see that Chinese freighters on the fast train has really served a great deal to help they fill the gap, with the COVID-19, and also that China is able to bring a lot more goods back, even now from the European Union. So therefore, we do see a very large prospect, while the uncertainty still loom large, between EU and the United States. So this we have a lot more confidence, and particularly now when the comprehensive investment treaty is being concluded and now pending for final decision by Brussels. And if that really gets approved, so we're going to see a further surge in the China-EU economic relationship, both in trade and investment.
Talking about the investment, Mr. Dunnett, a recent survey released by the German Chamber of Commerce in China says that 39% of German companies doing business in China recorded higher turnover last year, and 42% of German companies had higher profits. This sounds pretty amazing to me, given the fact that we're still dealing with the pandemic. How representative do you think these German companies' experiences reflect the fate, the reality of EU companies in China at large?
Well, approximately 20% of our members are German companies, and German companies do very well in China. They're Europe's biggest exporter. They've brought a lot of technology to China. They're very innovative. They're good business people, and I would say they're generally very optimistic about the business environment. They probably do a little bit better than the rest of European companies overall, and they're a good benchmark for us to use. But overall, European companies are doing well in China. They've seen our figures, pan Europe, are very, very similar. And this just goes to show the great potential that there is here in the China market.
And then, of course, if you read headlines, there has been a lot of reports on the complaints from the EU side. Even as the bilateral investment treaty was concluding, there are critics out there saying that there's not enough market opening, this issue of human rights, labor standards. And also, there's this issue about, bilateral investment treaty. How does the Chamber look at the bilateral investment treaty that was about to be concluded?
Well, look, there's a lot of challenges. Although China can be profitable, it's a very challenging business environment as well. We write a position paper every year. We release several thematic papers. We look at this comprehensive agreement on investment as a framework tool, something through which we can continue to expand market opening here in China, continue to create a better level playing field. And the other third element of this agreement is the sustainable development aspect to it, where we look at, as you say, labor rights and environmental issues as well. So this agreement goes above and beyond what we've seen with the Phase 1 deal with the US, what we've seen with RCEP. It's the first standalone deal that Europe's signed with any other country, and it's great that we've done this with China. Despite the criticism that's out there, we're looking at this as very much a glass half full type approach. We've been given the opportunity now, and it's really up to the Chinese government to make good on the promises that it's made in this document, and for European companies to take advantage. So we're looking forward to the market openings that have been announced in auto and cloud services and construction services, and we hope European companies and companies from around the world, other foreign companies, will be able to take advantage of this. Ultimately, though, we'll have to judge it in a couple of years after it's ratified, assuming it's ratified.
Mm-hmm.
There's still some hurdles to go before that happens. But ultimately, it'll be judged based on the results that it delivers. So we're hopeful. It's a very, very good start. It's going in the right direction. It's much more than the rhetoric than we're hearing from other corners of the world. It's an actual commitment. It's something that's signed in writing, and then we've got to get people to live up to the expectations that they've raised now.
Yeah, let me add to the complaint because complaint may not be completely without merit because in love affairs people complain against each other simply because they need each other. So the fact that the European Union complain China does not really offer the ideal type of level playing fields in terms of the maintaining government subsidies, SOEs, etc., and which shows that they care about the Chinese market, they care about the partnership with China, and also China is not completely without fault given its developmental stage. So therefore, that's quite a benign approach. And compared to the Trump administration's attitude towards China, it's not really there to destruct the relationship, but rather to through criticism, through complaint, but we are able to find the constructive solutions as how we can really move forward by removing those obstacles that hurts on both sides. So therefore, this type of relationship is really something that is highly valuable, and that really sets a benchmark between the working relationship of major economies.
Right, we look forward to the details of this investment treaty and when it will get ratified by the Parliament in Brussels. Thank you, Adam Dunnett, Secretary General of the European Union Chamber of Commerce here in Beijing, and Professor Liu Baocheng from the University of International Business and Economics. Always great to talk to you. Now we'll take a short break, and when we come back, China's birth rate hit a record low in 2020. That is the fourth annual decline in a row. Why aren't people in China having more babies? And what are the biggest concerns?